This, ladies and gentlemen, is Lunduke's non-woke software list for August of 2025. Holy heavens, the list is getting longer, and that makes me quite happy. It's not as long as I'd like. But it's getting longer, and the ones that are on here are getting more and more successful, which is pretty great. Okay, let's dive on into this. There is a heck of a lot of software out there, especially in the open source world. Now, what exactly is woke software? What do I mean by woke software? So glad you asked, because I've defined it. Here, I've got a definition I'm putting up on screen if you're watching the video version. Woke software, noun. 1. Any computer software of which the owners or developers of said software hate you for being a normal person. Or 2, any computer software of which the owners or developers cannot tolerate a viewpoint other than their own. That's really it, right? I mean, that's how I view woke software. I think we could pull in a whole lot of political allegiances into a lot of woke software, and I think that there might be a 100% consistent Venn diagram that is a circle argument to be made there. But I think the general definition is as I just laid it out, because it's essentially discriminatory software. It's simple, right? DEI software is woke software because DEI is discriminatory. Software run by leftist extremists tends to be woke software. Why? Because they don't tolerate, and they hate, and they ban, and they censor, and they silence anyone who is different from them or anyone who disagrees with them. So I think I've got the definition down. We could argue about it till the cows come home, but in the end, we're still talking about the same software. And I'm sure we can all think of some examples of woke software. Mozilla Firefox, NixOS, the Godot game engine. There's just a mountain of others. I linked to a few of them in the article I'm talking about, which I will link to wherever you're getting the show. But if you've been following the Lunduke Journal for any length of time, you can think of several off the top of your heads. OpenSUSE, oh my gosh, the list goes on and on. Elementary OS, there's so many out there. But what about non-woke software, right? You know, software which doesn't hate you for being a normal person. Luckily, there is a growing number of decidedly non-woke options, and even better, some of them are truly outstanding. Below, I have collected my personal favorites as of August 2025. Now, I should point out that this is not an extensive list. What this is are the non-woke options that I can personally vouch for in some way. I've installed this software. I've checked this software out. In most of these cases, I've had some conversations with the people behind the software, and I can say that these applications, these operating systems, etc., are pretty much non-woke, or about as non-woke as you can get. Now, I should point out that absolutely none of the developers or managers or founders of these pieces of software have asked to be on this list. In fact, it's entirely possible that some of them may not love that they're on this list because it may cause people to yell at them. However, I still view them as non-woke, so I'm adding them here. All right, so let's talk about operating systems. I've got 4 on my list right now. And I think realistically there's probably some more. I'm looking at like 2 or 3 others that I'm hoping that I can probably add to this list next month. But as of right now, there's 4 that I can vouch for and verify in some way. All right, and we got 3 Linux distributions and 1 BSD. So first is OpenMandriva. That's a given. It's a classic Linux distribution. It's a derivative in a way. It's sort of the inherited lineage of Mandrake. It's been around for quite some time, and it's the one that I use. I've been using OpenMandriva as my primary system since January of this year, when the lead developer of OpenMandriva got a hold of me and was like, "Hey, Lunduke, I heard you were looking for some non-woke software, non-woke Linux distros. Well, let me tell you something, buddy. Okay, he didn't phrase it quite like that, but he came at me and he was like, "Look, we are super non-woke. We're basically anti-woke," and he made his case most eloquently. So I can wholeheartedly vouch for Open Mandriva. There's also Devuan. Devuan is a Debian fork that has no System D in it. So if you're not a real big System D fan, Devuan is already kind of an interesting one. And considering how hard woke Debian has been going, which is a bummer, I've used Debian and Debian-based distros for years. Devuan is a fantastic non-wokey alternative. And a new one on the list this month is Omarchy. Omarchy is not so much a distribution in and of itself. It describes itself as an Arch plus Hyperland configuration. Basically, it's becoming its own Arch distribution, but it kind of started out as a whole boatload of configuration options on top of Arch, and it's kind of quickly becoming its own little distro in its own right. And it's run by DHH of Ruby on Rails fame, and it's decidedly non-woke. Again, none of these people have asked me to add them to this list, so hopefully they won't get yelled at too much. And then that brings us to Ghost BSD. Ghost BSD is a free BSD-based distribution that's really end-user usability focused. And it's quality. And again, they don't make a big point about not being woke. What's great, honestly, about all four of these operating systems, if you go to their website, they don't make political statements. And that's kind of a core point here, is they're not trying to be, oh, we're the conservative Republican Linux distro. No. They're just making software. You could be a leftist activist and be involved with Open Mandriva or Devuan or Ghost BSD, and it would be totally fine. And I think that's a really important distinction to make, is they simply are not making big, bold political statements. Now, Open Mandriva made a point to me about being not woke, right? But the rest of them don't, right? They just simply are not woke. Like you just know that from people running it or on the projects, and they kind of avoid making weird political statements, and they avoid all the DEI and woke stuff, and they're just simply focused on the software. It's absolutely fantastic. And what I love about this list, it's only 4, but it's uniquely distinct Linux distributions. Those 3 and Ghost BSD, they're really distinct experiences. So if you're like me and you're the kind of computer nerd that kind of enjoys installing and configuring a new operating system for the first time, give these 4 a chance. They're all uniquely interesting. Currently, I'm running Open Mandriva as my primary machine, and I do have a secondary machine running Devuan right now, though I am considering moving that one over to Ghost BSD just because it'd be nice to have a BSD machine. Again, though, personal favorite, Open Mandriva. Web browsers. Web browsers is an important one, right? So let's say you've got your operating system and you've got a non-woke operating system, but it kind of sucks if you load up Firefox every time you want to hop online, and we spend most of our working life a lot of times in web browsers, so you need a non-woke web browser, right? Brave, right? I've got 2 browsers on my recommended list that are non-woke, and I would say Brave is the one that is usable as a daily web browser driver right now. It is Chromium-based, which I know is going to be a deal breaker for some people, but it's quality. It focuses on privacy and ad blocking, and from all the privacy tests I've seen, it blows Firefox, even with a number of their privacy extensions, out of the water. And the ad blocking on it is truly phenomenal. I also have included Ladybird on this list. And the reason I'm including that one is, even though It's not yet ready to be a daily web browser, daily driver. It is decidedly not woke, meaning it's not political. They're just focusing on making a great web browser, and it's the progress that it is making over the last year and a half or so has been so absolutely rapid and stupendous that I feel like it's going to be a usable daily driver soon, and it's worth keeping an eye on, so I have it on the list. For email clients, I'm including Betterbird. That's the only really noteworthy option I have on here at the moment, and Betterbird is a fork of Mozilla Thunderbird. Now, it's not forked for political reasons, right? Mozilla is crazy woke, crazy political, super psycho-political. But that's not the reason Betterbird was forked. It was forked for technical reasons and because they wanted to get some changes in there and some improvements specifically around usability and whatnot. And it's just simply, honestly, a better Thunderbird. It truly is a better alternative to Mozilla Thunderbird, but it is essentially Mozilla Thunderbird. But it's not Mozilla because it's forked, which makes it less woke. And I want to talk about, real quick, some other software. I just kind of have a catch-all other software category, and hopefully as the list of non-woke software here grows, we can break this out into multiple additional categories as well. There's the Redo game engine, which is a fork of Godot. You may remember the Godot game engine had this big cleansing of conservative or just non-political people so that they could just focus on being a leftist thing. Well, Redo, kind of in response to all of that, created a fork, and they've had a ton of progress. I think they've had a small pile of releases since then, and they've been really making some great progress. So there's Redo. Ex Libre, which I'm sure you all have seen the coverage over the last few months. That is the X11 server Xorg fork. And again, massive new releases. The number of new features and bug fixes in Ex Libre puts Xorg to absolute shame. So the success there is truly phenomenal, and they are decidedly non-woke. Hyperland. I'm including Hyperland in here, not so much because the developer of Hyperland, which is a Wayland-based window manager and it kind of becoming its own desktop environment, not so much because the developer of Hyperland is trying to make it some non-woke thing, but because everyone who is on the woke side of thing seems to hate Hyperland. All the people at Red Hat and Xorg and so many other organizations that have gotten extraordinarily woke over the last few years, they just have it out for Hyperland. Like, they just want to torpedo that project and they just want to see it die. And so I'm putting the Hyperland on here because I don't even know if it's deserved, but the developer of Hyperland just has a big target on his chest from all of the woke people out there. And then I'm also, of course, this would not be a non-woke list without SQLite. SQLite is just that SQL single-user database engine. SQLite files, by the way, are everywhere. Like, if you have an iPhone or an Android phone, it's filled with SQLite databases. I mean, it's just filled with them and you don't even notice it. It is everywhere. There's so many software packages out there, both open source and free software and commercial, that use SQLite files as like their primary file format. It's everywhere, man. And they have a code of ethics in SQLite that has stuff like, do not take the Lord's name in vain. Things like that. It is like the most non-woke code of conduct-ish thing you'll ever find. But aside from the non-wokeness, and I really want to point this out here, all of this software is all quality software, right? I'm not interested in having some sort of, let me go up so you can see the list again. I'm not interested in having some sort of list of non-woke software that's all janky and junky. I want good stuff, man. I want good software. I want software where I want to use it not only because it's non-woke, but because it's the best software in its category. And so that's the list that I'm putting together here. I'm hoping, again, that I'm eyeing a few things, that I'll be able to add a good small handful of items to this list in September, so next month. Stay tuned for that. Hopefully this will continue to grow, and we'll see how that goes. Thank you to the Lunduke Journal subscribers for making it possible for me to do this work. It's important, and none of the other tech journals are doing it, so you guys make it possible. Go to lunduke.com if you want to see where to read or listen or watch the Lunduke Journal. You may notice one of the things we've changed recently is that now, in order to watch the videos from the Lunduke Journal, you have to be a subscriber, either via Locals, X, Patreon, YouTube, or Itch. Lots of options there, but it's listening to the audio podcast is always free, and of course is reading the audio and reading the articles and all that sort of thing. So again, go to lunduke.com and click on those links and have a great time with it. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, nerds and nerdettes across the inner tubes, I do declare end broadcast.